to start. We're watching the House in the meantime. They shouldn't be more than 5 minutes late.
Of communities. And so what's interesting is that the official opposition chooses to attack electric vehicles rather than challenging the U.S. tariffs that are being threatened on Canada, being imposed on Canada. And I would like to hear from the member, why is it that the Conservatives refuse to accept that climate change is real? Why is it that they always attack the government and Canadian jobs rather than actually looking at where the issues are? Thank you, Mr.
Honourable
Speaker.
Parliamentary Secretary.
I would like to thank the member for the question, and obviously that the biggest threat to our economy right now is the American tariffs, not electric vehicles. Look, we want to ensure that we grow our economy, but also protect the environment for future generations. We need to do that with different approaches. There's not one panacea that's going to do that, but we have to take different approaches, and this is just one that will ensure that my children, my grandchildren, 7 generations ahead will inherit an earth that's better than it is today. So I thank you, the member.
Questions and comments. Le député pour Pierre Boucher.
The honourable member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to see that my Liberal colleague intends to vote against the Conservative motion, but I have a question on another element that is linked to this motion. It's the fact that fewer electric vehicles are being sold now than were sold in the past because of the sabotage of his own government that decided to cut subsidies for electric cars with no notice. And so people all of a sudden said, well, there's no more subsidy. Will it come back? Will it not come back? And now we have a new government with no commitment to bring back the electric vehicle subsidy. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So when will they put an end to this uncertainty?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, and thank you for the colleague for the question. During the election, our platform stated that we're looking to reintroduce.
Okay. One of the committees is starting. I don't think this has to be a Liberal or Conservative chair. I think this one goes to a vote, if I remember correctly.
Fully electric by 20.
Go back to the House while we wait.
We're at 7.5% now. What kind of draconian laws is this government prepared to bring in so that they can meet those targets?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, and thank you for the question once again. As I stated, that we are looking forward to continue to work with the auto sector, continue to work with workers to ensure that we bring them along and they come along so that we can ensure that we protect those jobs, protect the future, and protect our environment.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciated the member talked a bit about in regards to how it is that the Conservatives are trying to give this false impression. To give an impression virtually that there will be no gas-powered vehicles 10 years from now, Mr. Speaker, and how it does a disservice to the public as a whole when you get Conservatives continuously trying to give misinformation on what is actually fairly sound government policy. And if he could provide his thoughts in regards to the negative side of the Conservative Party giving misinformation.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the colleague.
Room is much too loud. We cannot hear interpreters without having the volume in the earpiece very loud. If we could lower the volume in the room, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, or chair, clerk, or raise the level in our earpieces. One of the two, because it's even. I have to have full volume just to hear the voice. So.
Okay, let's get the earpieces sorted and let's get a chair. Come on. Not that difficult. Holy smokes, people. Get it together. I understand it's not even early in the morning. It's actually almost afternoon now. Come on, guys, get this sorted.
Est-ce que c'est correct, Monsieur Thériault?
En salle, d'abord.
You'd have to speak so that we hear the volume in the room first.
No.
Is the interpretation working now?
L'interprétation fonctionnait, Madame.
There's not an issue with interpretation. The problem is when you're speaking, the volume in the room is too loud, and so I can't hear interpreters. And because the volume in the room is too loud, I have to increase the volume in my earpiece to the max. And even then, I can't hear interpreters. So I've asked for the room volume to be lowered. We're going to work on that now, Mr. Thériault.
Nobody's even saying anything. What do you mean room volume? People aren't even talking, man. This is committee.
Honorable membre du comité, je constate...
Honorable committee members, I see that we have quorum.
063A, as the clerk of the committee, I will preside over the election of the chair and the vice chairs. Je dois informer les membres que la greffière...
I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate.
We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, yes, Ms. Sidhu?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I want to motion Dr. Hattie Fry. I want to nominate as a chair of the committee.
Il est proposé par...
It has been moved by Ms. Sidhu that Dr. Fry be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any further motions?
I will now put the motion to the committee. It has been moved by Ms. Sidhu that Dr. Fry be elected as chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? Je déclare la motion adoptée et
I declare the motion carried and Dr. Fry duly elected chair of the committee. I invite Dr. Fry to take the chair.
Bonjour tout le monde et merci beaucoup.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for this honor.
To the clerk to continue with the election of the vice chairs.
Okay, we got a liberal dinosaur in for chair. Now, let's see Foreign Affairs Committee.
Will preside over the election with the chair and the vice chairs. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions of the election with the chair. The clerk cannot receive other type of motions, cannot entertain point of order, nor participate in debate. We can now proceed to election of the chair. Nous pouvons procéder maintenant à l'élection à la présidence.
We may now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 106.2, the chair must be a member of their party, and I am now open to nominations.
Ms. Vandenberg, please.
I nominate Ahmed Hussein.
Ahmed Hussein. So the motion is proposed by Ms. Vandenberg that Ahmed Hussein be elected be elected as chair of the committee has been received as a notice of motion. Any other motions? So I put forward the motion that Mr. Ahmed Hussein be elected as chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? Perfect. So Mr. Ahmed Hussein is now chair of the committee. So I invite him to come forward.
And another Liberal chair. Wow. Out of all the committees so far, there is one or two Conservative chairs. Yeah, and this guy was a former minister, yeah. Definitely shows a bias towards Liberals.
Thank you very much, members, for your confidence in me, and I will now turn back to the clerk to proceed with the election of the vice chairs. Thank you.
So, pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the second vice chair must be a member of the opposition party other than the official opposition. I'm now prepared to receive motions. Mr. Abouteif?
Yeah, I nominate MP Chong for the vice chair position.
That Michael Chong be elected second vice chair of the committee. Any further motions? Is it? First vice chair, sorry, my apologies. First vice chair. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? Almost. So Mr. Chong is now the first vice chair of the committee. Thank you. So the second vice chair must be a member. So pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the second vice chair must be a member of the official party, of the opposition party other than the official oppositions. I'm now prepared to receive the motions for the second vice chair. Mr. Oliphant.
C'est difficile de faire un choix.
It's very...
Okay, and then this is one of the other committees. This is a really boring one, but this is the language committee. And as you can see...
is taking place in a hybrid format. For those taking
Baker
part
got
in the
it.
meeting virtually.
So all the committees this morning elected Liberal chairs. Every single one of them. There's actually a fourth one.
All comments should go through the chair. I'd ask members to raise their hands if they do seek to speak, either in person or over Zoom. The clerk and myself will do our very best to maintain order, the speaking order.
As the clerk of the committee, I will preside over the election of the chair and the vice chairs. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive motions cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate. Nous pouvons donc procéder à l'élection de la présidence.
We can now proceed to the election of the chair. Pursuant to Standing Order 1062, the chair must be a member of the government party.
Receive motions for the chair. Mr. Richards.
I would move Marie-France Lalonde.
It has been moved by Blake Richards that Marie-France Lalonde be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? Seeing none, it has been moved by Mr. Richards that Marie-France Lalonde be elected chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt this motion? I declare the motion carried and Madame Lalonde duly elected chair of the committee.
Yep, another Liberal. So that's 4 out of 4. All chairs on every committee this morning are Liberal. It's a little crazy.
Je vais commencer par juste dire
I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to Mr. Richards.
merci à vous tous.
Thanks to everyone for entrusting me with this role today. It's always an honour and a privilege. So a big thank you.
So far, there's only 2 committees that have conservative chairs, and Liberals typically don't call meetings in the summer. So all of these committees are not going to work in the summer. It's usually Conservatives only who call committee meetings when the House isn't sitting. So that's why I was hoping we would get more Conservative chairs, but yep. Let me see what the House is doing. Let's tune into the House.
Conservatives is disconnected from the reality of Quebecers. Well, Pierre-Olivier Zappa, a few weeks ago, said that he was no longer interested in EVs because he disagrees. Does the honourable member disagree with a provincial MP to say that electrification is utopic? Someone else in Quebec said, we're not dogmatic, but we're realising that the market isn't ready for electrification, so we're adjusting, and that's what our motion is saying, Mr. Speaker. Why is my colleague so disconnected from what Quebecers think? The honourable member for Jonquière. Well, I won't go back to what Mr. Zappa said, which was a right caricature. I've already spilt gas on my shoes when I was filling up a car in the past, and I'm not going to complain that for 5 weeks I smelt of gas. And so it's a caricature. It doesn't represent EVs. What really irks me is that Quebec MPs rise during an opposition day motion to go after or to support an industry that does nothing for Quebec. Electrification would be good for Quebec, is good for Quebec, would allow it to develop electrification even further. They just want to throw a spanner in Quebec's works.
The member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question, for his speech, rather. There are 2 provinces where we see most EV sales. That's British Columbia and Quebec. What do these 2 provinces have in common that means that most vehicles are sold in those 2 provinces? The honourable member for Jonquière. It's a simple answer. Because we have provincial incentives, because we've built a network that allow electric vehicle users full services. But the Conservatives' proposal doesn't want to develop electrification. The last thing I heard from the Conservatives was they wanted to maintain the plastic industry during their election campaign. So they want to keep plastic straws, and they want to make sure that there are more combustion vehicles. That's completely incoherent with the current climate crisis. Questions and comments?
Or Provencher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for his speech. I've had the opportunity to sit with the member on committee, and I know he's very passionate about everything environmental. But I do have a question because I know he's just as passionate about Quebec and Quebec sovereignty. And why is he comfortable with this government imposing a mandate on Quebecers? Let the market go where it will in Quebec. Let Quebecers do what they want. But why is he comfortable with Canadians telling Quebecers what to do?
The honourable member for Jonquière. Quebec already has its legislation on zero-emission vehicles. We didn't wait for the federal government to tell us what to do. When it comes to an energy transition, we are figureheads and we almost never have to wait for the federal government. What's wild is billions of Quebec dollars that are invested in oil and gas. We paid $34 billion for a pipeline. Resuming debate. The member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, this debate is highly interesting. Unfortunately, it has to be discussed. today. Internationally and in Canada, there's a campaign that has been deployed by big oil and by many car manufacturers to denigrate all government actions that would reduce the consumption of oil. Let us be clear. Most arguments put forward by my Conservative colleagues are directly pulled from the oil and gas playbook that doesn't want to lose any market share because of the booming electric car industry. What we hear today is many distortions of reality. And I think that to have a good debate and to hold MPs accountable, they have to give information instead of promoting oil and gas propaganda. Unfortunately, in the country, we have car manufacturers that don't work for Canadians.
What they do is not in the interest of Canadians in a number of ways. For example, there aren't many affordable, smaller cars on the market. That applies to both gas and electric cars. Very few of the available models are manufactured here, and even those that are generally large vehicles that are very expensive. They're not accessible for the middle class, and even new vehicles are increasingly expensive. When it comes to vehicle availability, one of the big problems is that vehicle manufacturers aren't interested in making them affordable. And now the Conservatives are proposing removing all obligations for manufacturers to make these vehicles more available. We saw after COVID that there was a vehicle shortage. Many people had to wait up to 2 years before being able to get electric vehicles. Nearly 2 years, Mr. Speaker. Few models were available. The most affordable models were not available. Why did it take so long to get these vehicles? Because manufacturers, for various reasons, such as a parts shortage, ended up having to focus on markets where they had to provide electric vehicles because there was a quota. So when it came to jurisdictions where there was no such obligation, those were not the priority, which is why there was so many delays and such little choice for consumers. So if we just leave it to the free market and to think that that would lead to a greater choice of electric vehicles, that's not logical, and the past shows us that that's not what would happen. We need to regulate manufacturers for them to offer a wider range of cars and also a wider range of small electric cars, which is currently a problem. When we look at the propaganda that we've been hearing, we're hearing both oil companies and the Conservatives say that people won't have enough choice when it comes to.
So just so you guys can see, right? The two committees already have adjourned. Basically, that's why there was no point to go back to them. They picked their chair. They did the typical housekeeping for rules to set the committee going forward, and then they just adjourn. And that's exactly what the Veteran Affairs and the Health Committee are doing right now. Like if we tune in to see what they're doing, you'll see they're doing routine proceedings at the beginning.
Then let's just move on.
Have what?
Well, just a declaration with any witness if they have a conflict of interest.
Mr. Strauss, on this question?
Sorry, there's, Madam Chair, thank you. There's two things I'm not understanding. One, is this conflict of interest concern for witnesses or for committee members? If it
for witnesses.
Mr. Poloski moved it, so I'll give him an opportunity to explain exactly what he means.
For witnesses.
For witnesses.
Madam Chair, that proposal makes a great deal of sense to me.
All right, so you're in favor of it? Yes, Mr. Elson.
Yes, thank you. I agree as well. I think we've had witnesses on my previous experience in HESA that came with one perspective without declaring that in fact they had a significant funding base that was potentially influential to their statements that there would have been a very different context had those conflicts been declared. So I think that's, I'm in favor of this.
Anyone else wishing to speak to it? No? So then could I, yes, Matt?
Chair, is the motion on the floor right now? Like, is
It
the motion
is, yes,
constructed?
Mr. Pawlowski moved it.
And then I guess I would just like some more detail about defining conflict. Like, if I work for a advocacy group, presumably my salary is paid for that advocacy group. Is that presumed, or they would have to explain all of their employment? And is it only financial conflicts of interest, or we're talking about spousal and beyond?
Thank you.
Or is it all going to be honor system? So just maybe some more detail about that before it comes to a vote.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I'm going to entertain the other questions before Marcus answers. He can answer them all in one fell swoop. So I have...
So yeah, you can see these committees at the very beginning, once committees start, are extremely boring. I just wanted to check to see who is going to chair these committees, because every single committee so far, except for 2, are all Liberal chairs. So expect them to get very little to no work done. And the main committees that we usually watch anyway on this channel are the public accounts. We usually watch OGO. There's the Indu and Environment Committee, which sometimes can be interesting, especially when they're investigating things like SDTC, etc. So there are a few more committees on after question period. So at 3:30, there's the Justice Committee, the National Defense Committee, fisheries, citizenship, things like that. So we'll tune into those on the question period link just to check to see who's going to chair those. But yeah, we'll watch this for another few minutes and then we'll call it here and we'll wait till question period. Because the committees, most of them are just going to adjourn. Half of them have already adjourned this morning anyway. They just pick chairs, do housekeeping, set rules, and that's it.
Detailed frames of reference so that we can, look this over in the meantime. And because right now there's no strict definition of what this is. Like Mr. Strauss said, what does this entail? Is it financial? Is the conflict of interest due to associations? I think there might be a little too much that we would have to define before we move on this. So I would be in favor of delaying this motion until a more detailed motion with more detailed frames of reference could be brought in.
All right, so you look to this issue.
Je voudrais essayer de...
I want to clarify. I know that there are some questions. There are groups that are invited because they represent various companies. That happens. So we know that when they speak before us, they are representing their members and their companies that have interests. There's no issue there. It could happen that we might decide to invite an expert witness in a given field. Witnesses that we have received at the Health Committee, for the most part, were ethical enough to declare at the outset of their opening remarks that they were in a conflict of interest or that they had a particular interest. When we invite experts that are researchers, we know that research funding comes from government. So are they in a conflict of interest? We won't be able to make a definition here. We need to agree that we could ask the question to a witness. If I think there might be a conflict of interest, I can ask that person the question, and that would clarify.
Holy smokes. Let's see what the House is doing. House is still talking about the EV mandate.
Oil and gas, as the Conservatives seem to want. Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety. I I'd like to thank the member for Repentigny. Quebec is starting to use more and more EVs because we have a well-developed network of chargers on our roads. So I'd like to hear how the EV standards would help develop a pan-Canadian network that would ultimately convince the rest of the country to follow Quebec's lead. And how many chargers does my colleague think we will need to install in addition to those that already exist?
I don't think any of these guys know how electricity works.
Well, Mr. Speaker, having standards in place.
You don't have the electrical grid anywhere in Canada to be able to have everybody charging their EVs overnight. It just, there's not that much electricity. You can't draw it all from it. Even if you redid the whole entire electrical infrastructure, which would take years and an extreme amount of cost, you still, like, people's houses aren't usually outfitted with that type of volt to... Usually they're just using like a car, a plug that's in your house. Like the car plugs that you need them specifically outfitted, like in a garage or something. That means everybody in their whole entire house would need to outfit a, was it a 240 volt? Because everyone's having 120 volts. So if you charge it off a 120 volt, it's going to take like 12 hours to charge. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think these guys know how silly an EV mandate is.
The environmental footprint caused by...
Electricity is a fossil fuel as well, isn't it? It depends what province. Like, for example, BC is mostly hydroelectric dams, so you could say that their electrical grid is like renewable energy. Provinces like Ontario that use a large portion of nuclear are still considered like, I don't know, renewable energy. Because it's, I don't know, but places like Alberta, it would be, yes, it'd be fossil fuels because theirs is mostly fossil fuel powering the electrical grid. But I don't really feel like sitting here and watching any more of these committees because they're mostly, half of them have already adjourned. The other half are going to adjourn after the housekeeping. And I don't really feel like sitting here in the house watching two people speak French to each other over an EV mandate, which none of them seem to understand the basics of electrical theory. So we will tune out here, and we will go ahead and wait for question period at 2 p.m. So I've put the link in chat. I'll put it in chat again. There's the link for question period. And after question period, we'll just stay in that same link, and we'll watch a couple of the committees that start at 3:30 p.m. right after question period, and we will check to see what chairs get elected in those committees. So I will see you guys later, and yeah, have a good rest of your morning. See you guys.